Sandy Says Read. Welcome to the channel. It has been a weekend, you guys. Okay, this evening we are going to do a review and discussion of One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. This is a fantasy novel, and the number 1 fits the clock reading challenge for 2024 in my reading challenges that I'm doing. We'll talk about that in a second. First, I need to tell you guys to please subscribe to the channel. Please encourage your friends who enjoy reading, book reviews, booktube tags, and all that good stuff to also subscribe to the channel, because you know it's free. And I have a goal for this year, so please subscribe and help me reach my goal. All right, the clock reading challenge is a reading challenge that originated over at Jo Lindsdale's channel. So I'm going to put a link to her in the drop down box below so that you can check out Jo Lindsdale, check out her clock reading challenge. She has a number of videos in her clock reading challenge series because she's been doing this challenge for years. She started it several years ago, and it's intriguing to me. I think it's cool because it gives you an opportunity to look at new books, new authors maybe that you hadn't thought of before, because you're looking specifically for books that have numbers in their titles. And that's not something that I had really considered before this past year. I hadn't thought of it, but it's a quirky new thing. And it forced me to look at authors I hadn't thought of before. It forced me to look for different types of titles. And so I did. And I've got an interesting slew of books to look at in 2024, starting with One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig. And I can tell you, I probably wouldn't have put this on my radar if it wasn't for the clock reading challenge. And I am glad that I got this on my radar because I enjoyed it very much. I'm going to try to slow this down and go through this review with you guys, hopefully, like slowly, meticulously. I've got lots of good notes here for you all, so I can explain what happens in this book. It is awesome. It is cool. I'm going to read you the back cover. I'm going to go through the specs and read you the back cover because the back cover has a few elements that I was concerned might be spoilers. And thank goodness I can talk about them because they're mentioned on the back cover. So I don't have to worry about spoiling those things. This is going to be a spoiler-free review. So you can watch this whole thing and not worry about something being spoiled. I'm not going to give away things that are too important or too upsetting or too whatever, right? I'm not going to give away anything that shouldn't be given away, all right? There's probably like the last third of this book that I'm not even going to cover. It's not in the notes, at least, okay? I'm going to be really careful not to spoil it. Let's dive in. One Dark Window, Book 1 of The Shepherd King by Rachel Gillig. Copyright 2022 by Orbit Books, an imprint of Hachette Book Group. This particular version, get the glare off of it, is 392 pages. So let me read the back cover for you. Elspeth Spindle needs more than luck to stay safe in the eerie, mist-locked kingdom of Blunder. She needs a monster. She calls him the Nightmare, an ancient mercurial spirit trapped in her head. He protects her. He keeps her secrets. But nothing comes for free, especially magic. When Elspeth meets a mysterious highwayman on the forest road, her life takes a drastic turn. Thrust into a world of shadow and deception, she joins a dangerous quest to cure Blunder of the dark magic infecting it. Except the highwayman just so happens to be the king's own nephew, captain of the most dangerous men in Blunder, and guilty of high treason. A maiden must unleash the monster within to save her kingdom in this dark, lush, gothic fantasy debut. All right, doesn't that sound awesome? It is awesome. I was so pleased that I got to read this book. And I have the second book in the series on the nightstand next to my bed already. So we'll be diving into book 2 shortly. All right, so our main character is Elspeth Spindle. And I want you all to notice, as I go through talking about this book, all of the last names of these characters have something to do with trees. And that is on purpose. That is a clever device that Rachel used throughout the book, and I appreciated that. I thought that was great. Okay, so Elspeth Spindle, she's 20 years old when we meet her in the book. She lives with her aunt, her uncle, and her cousin Ione. The reason she's living with This family, while her father, stepmother, and stepsisters are still alive, they're in town. The reason she's living with them, like in the edge of the woods, is because when she was 9 years old, she had a fever, a high fever that is suspect. And let me read for you. Da, da, da. Let me read for you. I've got it marked here, you guys. Okay, here we go. Let me read for you in the beginning of very beginning of chapter 1, one of these highlighted like cards at the beginning of the chapter. These come at the beginning of every chapter, just a reverse text card, which is reflective of the providence cards that we'll talk about during this review. The infection comes as a fever in the night. If you take ill, watch the veins, the tributary of blood traveling down the arms. If they remain as they ever did, you have nothing to fear. If the blood darkens to an inky black, the infection has taken hold. The infection comes as a fever in the night. And the infection that she's talking about there is magic. And it is feared, it is treacherous, it is dangerous if you become ill, if you have this fever, someone will send a physician to your house. This is not a good thing. The physician is not a good thing. The physician will come with this special device to test your veins. If they discover that magic is infecting you, if you are infected, you will be executed. That's the end. That's it. Yeah, it's that dangerous. Let's see. This is the bad type of magic in this world. There's 2 magic systems happening in this world. This is the bad one. And it degenerates you. Like if you are infected with this magic, it comes with a cost. Remember, nothing comes for free, especially magic. It comes with a cost. If you're using this magic, if you're living with this and using it from time to time, it degenerates you. We meet a character named Emery throughout the book, and he's been using his magic, and it's like eating away at him. I got the impression at first that it was eating at his sanity, but he's not exactly insane, but he is losing. He's losing his battle with life. He's getting scrawnier and skinnier, and he's coughing up blood at one point. He's fading. He's failing. His degeneration is almost complete. Okay, so let's see. What am I telling you about? Okay, so she has this fever at age 9, and her father is the captain of the destriers, and this is the law enforcement agency. The destriers are this I don't want to call them ninjas, but they're good at fighting. They are strong. They work for the king, and they're kind of like the law enforcement for the king, right? And he is the captain of them. Her father is, and if he has a child who is infected with magic, he will be expected to execute that child. But he loves his daughter. She is what is left of his wife who died. He loves her. He doesn't want to be faced with, oh my gosh, what if she has this magic infection? He doesn't want that dilemma. So he sends her to live with her aunt. She has to convalesce there with her aunt, and her Aunt Opal is like, this child is not going to have the infection, period. Whether she does or not, she's not going to have this infection. And her Aunt Opal convinces her, okay, you didn't get infected. Magic didn't get into you. You're going to be fine. Everything is fine. Everything is fine. And she turns a blind eye to any indication that Elspeth might have magic. They all do. Everyone in her family just turns a blind eye to it and pretends that Elspeth doesn't have this magic within her. And Elspeth, being a smart little kid, also pretends that she doesn't have this magic within her. She keeps that secret, but she does. She is infected. And she doesn't know what her degeneration is going to be. She doesn't see how she's degenerating yet. But we, the reader, get to see that start. And it's a shame we get to see how the degeneration is beginning. And that we're going to talk about when we start talking about these plot points. Okay? So let's see. We've got, typically it's a death sentence when you're infected with magic. But I see 2 tier systems of justice in this society. And doesn't that sound familiar, right? But there are 2 systems of justice going on. We have like the common folk. If you get a fever, the physicians, the destriers, They're focused on you. Okay, your child has this fever. We're going to test your child. The physician tests your child. And if there's a hint of magic, execution, done. But if you're someone important, if you're, let's say, connected to the king or his family, and you're suspected that maybe you got infected with magic, well, we can turn a blind eye to that. You might be useful in the future. Maybe we can leverage that instead. So if you're important enough, then you don't have to be executed. And that comes into play in our story. So what is the other type of magic that we have in this world? This other type of magic comes through the providence cards. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the providence cards. Let's start on page 39. 39. Yeah, okay. On page 39, Elspeth is at the equinox, and she is, let's see, she's sitting next to her cousin Ione, and they are talking about her uncle trading a providence card to the king. And Rachel Gillig talks to us about all the different providence cards, okay? Next to me, Ione filled my ears with excited chatter. What do you think King Rowan will give father for the nightmare card? More cards? Gold? Land? An honored place in his court? The shepherd king had made 78 providence cards in descending order. There were 12 black horses held exclusively by the king's elite guard, the destriers, 11 golden eggs, 10 prophets, 9 white eagles, 8 maidens, 7 chalices, 6 wells, 5 iron gates, 4 scythes, 3 mirrors, 2 nightmares, and 1 twin alders. One of only 2, the nightmare card was exceedingly rare, which meant, despite the fact that Kings of Blunder had sought it for decades, my uncle had chosen to hold on to it in secret for 11 years. Okay, so that gives us a rundown of the different providence cards. And what these are, they're like trading cards, right? And these people in this society, they trade these cards, they steal them, which is punishable by death. They steal them, they trade them, they collect them. The king would like to collect one of each one of them. He would like to have a whole set. And there's a reason for that. He would like to have a whole set of the cards. Let's look at page 81 and 82 as well, because again, we're looking at these cards through Elspeth's eyes. Because of Elspeth's magic, she is able to see these cards. She's able to see their colors, okay? And so I want you to see that through her eyes. Because it's cool, okay? It's just freaking cool. All right, okay. The black horse made its beholder a master of combat. The golden egg granted wealth. The prophet offered glimpses of the future. The white eagle bestowed courage. The maiden bequeathed great beauty. The chalice turned liquid into truth serum. The well gave clear sight to recognize one's enemies. The iron gate offered blissful serenity, no matter the struggle. The scythe gave its beholder the power to control others. The mirror granted invisibility. The nightmare allowed its user to speak into the minds of others. The twin alders had the power to commune with Blunder's ancient entity, the spirit of the wood. But just as there were 2 edges to every blade, there were 2 sides to every providence card. Magic came at a cost. If used too long, the black horse could make its holder weak. The golden egg led to all-consuming greed. The white eagle's courage was replaced by fear. The prophet's foresight made its user helpless to change the future. The chalice's truth serum turned to poison. The maiden's beauty chilled its user's heart. The well's holder would be betrayed by a friend. The iron gate stole years from one's life. The scythe caused great physical pain. The mirror lifted the veil between worlds, exposing a world of ghosts. The nightmare revealed one's deepest fears. And the twin alders? No one knew what happened if you used the twin alders too long. There was no record of anyone having done so. All right, you guys. Why did that not tell us the colors? Smooth turquoise, the color of the sea. That's the chalice. Okay, that's there. He drew another breath. Oh, okay, here we go. This is why I had that marked. Okay, he drew another breath. A sharp, misty gray light floated about the room. The prophet, I said. The prophet's gray light flickered a moment. Okay, so different cards have different colors to them. I thought that I had marked for you guys where all the colors were, because there are a couple of scenes where she's in a room and different people are holding different cards, like in their breast pocket or in their coattails, in their coat pocket, I mean, and she's able to see the aura of color around that person. She's able to see where the card is on them, and the card emits a light, which is cool. I mean, the scythe card emits a red light. So whenever someone has that scythe card and they're coming toward her, she can see that red light and she knows, okay, they've got a scythe card on them. I better be careful. Okay, she knows that. And guys, I'm so sorry. I thought I had marked that passage for you, one of those passages for you. But you got some more insight into the Providence cards through that information there. There we go. All right. The cards came into existence 500 years ago because the Shepherd King traded off pieces of himself to make the cards and to imbue them with magic. He did this. I get the impression he did it because he was trying to help the spirit of the woods. Like, he wanted to recapture her or bring her back to the castle. He was trying to help the spirit of the wood. And like the thing says, nothing comes for free, especially magic. And he had to trade pieces of himself to imbue the cards with magic, okay? And the nightmare card captured his soul. Like, he had to give his soul for the nightmare card. Elspeth's uncle has one of the nightmare cards. So when she's a child, like 9-ish, 10-ish, she goes into his study. She sees the card. She's entranced by it. She's been reading the old book of the Elders, which the Shepherd King wrote. She knows about this card. She knows about the magic surrounding the Providence cards, but she's so drawn to it that she touches it. She just touches the edge of it, and it sends her flying across the room. When she wakes up from like a coma, the nightmare is in her mind. Like, the nightmare card, the vision of that nightmare card is in her mind and speaking to her. And so for the next 11 years, she has this internal dialogue with what she thinks is a monster, okay? So that's where the magic is in her. She knows that any of these Providence cards that she touches, she will bring it into herself. So she will not touch any more of these cards. She's got the nightmare in her. That's all she needs. She doesn't want anything else, okay? So let us now talk about characters of note in the book, in the story. Because Elspeth, obviously, she's our main character. She's the one that we're following through. We have the most tension and the most concern for her throughout the book. This nightmare that is in her mind is sort of the second character. He is, I don't trust him. I don't believe half the things he says to her. Did I write down where I could have? Yeah, okay. On page 291, we have a bit of dialogue that I wanted to point out for you guys, because I get the impression that the nightmare, I think he's gaslighting her. Okay, every time he gives her some little piece of truth, every time he gives her some little clue into her future or his past or the magic that she's using, it's like he's holding a whole lot more back. Okay, he's not the nice, fluffy, good character that she needs. Okay, like, she's trying to get help from him, and he will give her like a little piece of help here, a little piece of help there, and then gaslight her. Okay, and so here I have on page 291, I've marked where they have just, the two of them together, called on the magic that he can grant to her to make her faster and stronger, to get away from an enemy. Okay, I'm not going to give away too much of it because this is toward the back half of the book and I don't want to give away too much. But someone has been injured and she's like, did I do that, right? And what she says is, what did you do? I cried into the darkness. She's crying this in her mind. And the beast in her mind, the monster, he retracted his claws, his voice slow, idle. We did it together, just as we always do. I didn't want that. You asked for my help, and I delivered it. This is the way this monster treats her and talks to her and manipulates her throughout this book. Okay, he is, and this is her degeneration. Okay, the more he uses her, the more he breaks through in her mind, the more he gives her magic to make her faster, the more he gives her magic to help her get out of bad situations, the more he lets her see these providence cards that are all around her, the more he helps her, the more he is taking over her. And that pissed me off. It just made me mad that he would not say to her at some point, oh, and by the way, I'm going to take over. Yeah, the more you use me, the more I'm going to take over. Now, he does at some point, say, hey, oh, and by the way, magic comes at a cost, and that cost is I'm going to take over. We're going to become one. I'm going to be, in charge of things. And she's like, what? Why didn't you tell me that at the beginning? He's like, well, you didn't ask. Because he's a jerk, and he's a monster, and he's evil, and I don't trust him. This is Sandy's opinion. This is how Sandy read it. You might read it differently. Your results may vary, but I saw him as this horrible, evil, awful monster, predator, narcissist. I didn't like him. That's my opinion. There you go. Although potentially he is a totally different character. Potentially. But I don't believe that. I don't believe it. I don't believe him. The next character on the list is Ione. Ione is Elspeth's dear cousin, and in the beginning they are, thick as thieves. They trust one another. They talk to one another. They've been growing up together since she was 9, right? But when it comes time to go to the Equinox Festival, and Ione is falling in love with someone she shouldn't be falling in love with, Elspeth is like, this dude might not be a great dude. Ione is like, don't talk to me about that. I'm going to fall in love with who I want to fall in love with. You don't understand the ways of the world. And their relationship starts to erode. And it starts to erode more when Ione starts to use the Maiden card, the Maiden Providence card, which imbues beauty. We just read that in here. The Maiden card, makes the user of it more beautiful and alluring. And so everyone is looking at Ione like, wow, she is lovely and beautiful. We should do anything she asks. And it's not good. It's sad. It's a shame. And so Ione is one that you look at her like, okay, should we be trusting you anymore or not? And that's a theme that keeps coming up. The next character is Aunt Opal Hawthorne. She is constant. She is loving. She is wonderful. I wish we had seen her more, but she wasn't a main character. We didn't have to see her more. There's Uncle Hawthorne. He can be bought easily. He has, this rare Providence card. He has that nightmare card, which he trades. All right. Miriam Spindle. She is the jealous stepmother. She is the one that Elspeth's father married, and they have 2 daughters, Naya and Dimia. They are twin stepsisters, and they're not evil. They're not bad. They're a little vapid, but they're not bad. There's nothing terrible about them. We have Eric Spindle. He's the father. He's Elspeth's father, and he has a well card, which is another rather rare card. It's one that people are looking for, okay? But he used to be the captain of the Destriers. He retired from that, but that is why he needed to have his daughter, who could potentially be infected, go live somewhere else, okay? We have a character named Alex Laburnum, who's not a main character, but I'm wondering if he's not going to pop up in book 2 or 3 or something down the road, okay? Alex Laburnum, he has the hots for Elspeth, okay? He saw her at Equinox a couple years ago and was like, wow, she's so pretty. And he like tried to send her messages to her father's house where she doesn't live. So those got misdirected, but he's so excited that he gets to see her at Equinox this year. He's like, oh, Elspeth, sit by me, sit with my family, meet my mother. And Elspeth's like, no, we really don't need to carry on a relationship. No thanks. She's very polite to him, but no. And I'm wondering if he doesn't, pop up again in the future to avenge things that have happened. Because I just wonder if he's not going to come up again. He should. All right, then there's King Rowan. King Rowan is obviously the king, okay? And his son, Prince Howth Rowan, he's a brute. I could use all the names, all the horrible names in the dictionary for this cretin. He is awful, and he deserves every time he gets punched, he deserves it. His hand is smashed at one point. He deserves it. He deserves every bad thing that happens to him. I wish that, I wish someone would have castrated him. I wish someone would have I wish he would have been burned in oil. He's just such a horrible, awful, terrible character. I wish that more bad things would have happened to him. Slowly. He's just an awful, terrible. And he's the one that Ione is betrothed to. Yeah, we're going to get to that plot point. Yeah. All right, then there's Emery Yu. He comes along. He is the king's nephew, and he is infected with magic. But he's allowed to live because the king's going to need him, right? There's our two-tiered system of justice going on, but the king's going to need him, so he gets to live. But he is just, he's fading. You can see his degeneration, and it's sad. It's a shame because he seems like a nice enough guy. Then there is Prince Renelm Rowan. Everyone calls him Elm. He is the brother of the horrible, brutish Houth. He is the king's son, but he goes off to live with his cousins, the Yus. He goes off to live with them because he is so mistreated and so abused in his father's castle. His brother, this brute, so abuses him and just brutalizes him. He can't stay there. So he goes off to live with his cousins. And that's much better. Much better. We have Raven Yu. And this gentleman we need to pay attention to. Raven Yu is Emery's brother. So he is a cousin to the princes. Okay. He is also infected. We learn he is also infected with magic. He is now the captain of the Destroyers. So he's the one we talk about on the back cover. He's the one, where does it say? Except the Highwayman just so happens to be the king's own nephew, captain of the most dangerous men in Blunder, and guilty of high treason. So he's the Highwayman he goes about trying to capture more of these providence cards. He's trying to steal them, which is punishable by death. Okay, so he's doing a dangerous game. He's playing a dangerous game. He's doing dangerous things, but he's doing it because he wants to save his brother, Emery. Emery and Raven, they are brothers. They live near the castle, but not at the castle. The Yu family lives not too far away, but they have a secret too. Okay, so the Yu family, there's Raven, there's Emery, Jesper is their sister, and she turns out to be sort of almost a replacement for Ione. Ione, the cousin who is just losing her mind. She's got that maiden card. She's become beautiful, and she's going to marry Houth, and it's going to be great. She thinks. She's learning that it's not going to be great. But she has sort of abandoned Elspeth. She's sort of turned her back on Elspeth. And Jesper, she seems to be a character who is coming into that role. She's going to be a good friend to Elspeth, which is nice. That is a good thing. Other people in the Yu household, we have Fenrir and Moret Yu. They are married. We have Philip Willow. He's a physician, which should be scary and startling, right? Except he's one of the good guys. He is a physician. He has to pretend for the king, but he's actually one of the good guys. All of the folks in the Yu household are participating in this high treason. They are all a part of this game to capture as many of the providence cards as they can. They want a full deck. The king wants a full deck. Here's why. Let's go to our plot points, and we'll talk about why. Okay, so our plot points of note. The story begins with Elspeth visiting, we get to a point where she's visiting her father's house. Okay, she has gone to her father's house. She has Ione with her. They're still, bosom buddies at that point early on. And while she's there, we meet the stepmother who's like, oh, you had to come, didn't you? It's just uncomfortable for Elspeth. And she does end up leaving the house early. And when she leaves the house early, these highwaymen attack her in the woods. They attack her and they want her to tell them where the nightmare card is. They know, or do they ask for the nightmare card by name or just a card? They want some more providence cards, okay? These highwaymen do. And they're asking Elspeth, tell us where these, providence cards are. We know that your father has some or your uncle has some. Tell us where they are. And Elspeth is like, I gotta get out of here. I'm not telling anyone anything. This is scary. And she calls on the monster inside her to help her get away from these people. And the monster reacts. The monster helps her, right? Doesn't tell her what that's going to cost, but helps her get away. She also is having flashbacks at this point, and these flashbacks are what tell us about the fever that she had, how she learned that she had that infection, she had the magic, how she, touched the card and got the monster inside her. We're seeing those flashbacks, we're seeing those things through these early plot points. Then everyone goes to the equinox celebration. Everyone gets to go. But since Elspeth is part of the Spindle family, technically, she goes with her father, stepmother, and stepsisters. So she's in the Spindle suite of rooms at the castle. So she's with that family. And this strikes a couple of people as odd because not everyone knows that it's Eric, right? Yeah, not everyone knows that Eric Spindle has this other daughter because he has hidden her so well. And it's like, oh, so why are you're with them? Why are you with them? I didn't know that Eric had another daughter. So she has to hide the fact that, well, see, when I was 9, I had this fever. She has to hide that because she doesn't want anyone to start putting 2 and 2 together and figure out she might be infected. She's got so many secrets to hide. There's so much tension happening there. The tension just keeps building and building and building. It's very well done. Rachel did an awesome job with that. And when we're at Equinox, that's when Ione gets herself a maiden card. She starts using it. Her uncle trades off that nightmare card so that Ione can have her chance with the prince. And the prince is like, yeah, I'll marry her. So she's betrothed to the Prince Houth, who is just this cretin. We also learn that Raven Yu is probably not the best captain of the Destroyers he could be. We learned that he's actually the highwayman who tried to rob Elspeth there toward the beginning of the book. We find out that he and some of his, I don't want to call them cronies, but some of his family members and friends in the Yu household were the ones who beset her in the woods. And she's like, you've got to be kidding me. That's treason. As we learned on the back cover, that's treason. You could be executed for that. And he's like, well, we're not telling anyone. So she ends up going back to the Yu household. There are reasons for that I don't want to give away. She ends up going back to the Yu household. They do that under the guise of, well, Raven's going to be courting her, so she should go back to their household so that they can court. And in that society, that's okay. But the whole family is there. There's mom and dad, so there's chaperones galore, so it's okay. They're going to go court. So they're courting. They're pretending to court. And the pretense is something that Raven is just disgusted by. And Elspeth is like, oh, I'm disgusting to you. So there's this, there's a romance coming into the story as well, which I could take or leave, right? For this story, I could take or leave the romance. I didn't, it was nicely done, but I didn't see that it wasn't vital to my enjoyment of the story. Your results may vary. Let's see. So I wanted to talk about, on page 124, the reason that we need the deck of cards and Emery's blood. Page 124. And this is, the monster is explaining this. It says, what was it she had once said? The cards, the mist, the blood. They are all woven together, their balance delicate, like spider silk. Unite all 12 Providence cards with the black blood of salt, and the infection will be healed. Blunder will be free of the mist. The mist is what's surrounding their kingdom, holding them away from, like, the rest of the world. If the king can get all 12 Providence cards and drain Emery of his blood, which is not very nice, but use his infected blood in like a spell, right? If he can use that and the cards, he can cure everyone and everything of this magic. He can cure them of this problematic magic, and it will lift the mist that is around their kingdom. Well, the Yu family would prefer the king not kill their son, brother, friend. They would prefer Emery not be sacrificed for this. They would prefer someone else be sacrificed, not their brother, right? And I think is it Philic? I think it's Philip the physician. I think he's got magic in him. Someone they know is willing to be the sacrifice. Someone they know has magic and is like, look, I'm old and gray and decrepit. I will. It sounds terrible, but there is someone in the Yu family circle who's like, I'm old and I'm willing to be the sacrifice so that we don't have to sacrifice young Emery. We can get him away from the king and away from the abuse happening there, and I will be the sacrifice. So the Yu family is trying to collect all 12 Providence cards. And that's sort of the other plot happening here. We have two factions trying to get these Providence cards, a full deck, and drain someone who is infected to make the magic happen. And Elspeth is going to help the Yus because she can see the cards with her magic. And I don't think I want to give away any more than that because things happen and it's treacherous and it's suspenseful and things just keep happening, and I don't want to give away more than that because so much happens in this book that is cool and suspenseful that I don't want to give it away. I want you to read it. I want you to enjoy it. I want everything that happens to be exciting for you the way it was for me. I mean, there's a couple moments in there when I went, oh, yeah, gasp. Very well done. I can recommend One Dark Window by Rachel Gillig, not just for your clock reading challenge this year, but because it's an awesome fantasy book. I enjoyed it very much. I think you will too. You'll have to let me know in the comments below if you've read it, if you're planning to read it. When you do read it, let me know if you found the nightmare monster to be a deceptive cretin like I did. I just did not trust him. I still don't trust him. I've finished the book and still don't trust that creature. Just don't know. All right. I also, okay, so I wrote down two questions here. And one is, do we believe the monster is who he's claiming to be, or is he just pretending to be that important figure? And why? Tell me why. Tell me why. And question number two, what charm would you take into the mist? You see this mist that surrounds Blunder, the mist that surrounds there, it is where the spirit of the wood resides. And if you go into the mist, the spirit of the woods will like pick at your sanity and call you further into the wood and call you into, further into the mist and into just chaos and insanity and confusion, and you will get lost, and like the animals of the wood will come and like pick you apart and eat you. It's not a good thing to go wandering into the mist unless you take with you a charm. You have to take with you a very small charm, just in your pocket. That's good enough. The one that Elspeth carries is a crow's foot. The one that Raven carries is a viper head. Yeah, my birds think that's crazy. A viper head? Dangerous. It is dangerous. But Elspeth learns that she doesn't need to carry the crow's foot because she has magic in her, and she can use her magic to ward off the evil. Yeah. But what charm would you use if you were going into the mist? What charm would you take with you? Tell me in the comments below. You need to read the book. It's really good. 5 stars, 2 thumbs up. It's all good. All right, thumbs up, you guys, for awesome fantasy novels. Great clock reading challenge beginning. This is going to be a great year. Thank you for tuning in.